January 27, 2017, was a regular Friday throughout Kitsap County, Washington. The temperature hovered in the mid-40s and clouds seemed to come and go at will, teasing residents with rain throughout the day. The Seahawks season had ended nearly a month prior, so this was the first time in 6 years that football wasn't being played in Washington in January. And all everyone could talk about seemed to be the new president, who had been inaugurated just 1 week prior. That Friday night, at their home on West Tenino Drive, an attractive single-story ranch home, brown on tan, with red landscaping rock lining the front walk and green topiary shrubs, the Carriga family spent their time like any other family would. Snacking, staying up late, scrolling their phones, or watching TV. The Carrigas were a blended family. 43-year-old John, who went by Johnny with his friends and family, and his wife, 37-year-old Crystal, had 2 teenage sons, Jonathan Higgins and Hunter Shop, one hers and one his, both 16 years old and from previous relationships. John and Crystal had married in 2009, and the 2 boys had largely grown up as brothers. Sadly, though, their 8 years together as a family were about to come to an end. On the evening of the 27th of January 2017, dispatchers in Kitsap County, Washington received a 911 call from 16-year-old Hunter Shop, who pleaded with authorities to rush to the scene. By the time authorities arrived, the home that Hunter lived in with his family was engulfed in flame.
Kitsap 911 reporting.
My whole family shot me too.
What's the address? What's the address?
13417 Tenino Drive West.
13417.
13417 Tenino Drive West. Come now.
What's the you said tonight? You said Tenino Drive West?
13417 Tenino Drive West.
Okay.
Come to Washington.
Okay, listen.
I'm shot right now. My family's dead.
Who did it?
Someone came in. Hey, someone here with a gun. I don't know if you need to come now.
How many people?
I don't know, bro. Just fucking come, yo.
Where are you shot?
Fucking dead. Come, man.
Where are you shot?
I'm fucking shot, bro. I don't know where I'm.
He disconnects when emergency responders arrived at the Carriga family home minutes later. They found it on fire. Firefighters worked to extinguish the flames, and inside the home they found 3 bodies. The 4th was missing. 3 people were found dead inside a Kitsap County home that was engulfed in flames, and authorities Saturday searched for the homeowner, who was missing along with his truck, a sheriff spokesman said. The deaths of 2 men and a woman were classified as homicides. The crime happened on Friday night. It was now Sunday morning, and nobody had seen Johnny Carriga. The Olympian reported. Authorities asked the public to be on the lookout for the homeowner, 43-year-old John Derek Carriga, and to call 911 if he shows up. He's believed to be driving a brown 2005 Ford F-150 truck with Washington license plate CA9383B, Wilson said. Carriga is considered a missing person at this point, Wilson said. Despite the clarification that Johnny Carriga was considered simply a missing person, you get the inkling that there was some suspicion that perhaps he was the perpetrator. Call 911 if he shows up. In hindsight, I would presume that suspicion came from the press, who were not yet privy to the contents of the 911 call, or exactly what had been found at the crime scene, even though the coroner had not yet identified the bodies found in the home. The Kitsap Sun reported Hunter Shop, 16, had survived the attack. He had not survived. On Monday, the Sun reported Johnny's truck had been found. The burned pickup containing the body of John D. Carriga, 43, was found on a tree farm along a remote road in North Mason County, the Kitsap County Sheriff's Office announced Wednesday while asking for assistance from residents in the area. Crime scene investigators also found a single latex glove on the ground near Johnny's burned-out truck. The authorities asked residents or businesses with security cameras to contact them and offered a list of roads they were interested in. Sheriff's Detective L.T. Earl Smith said, "If they have video that faces the roadway, give us a call." There were scant details to be found, however, on the circumstances surrounding the discovery of John Carriega's body. Detectives say Robert Watson showed up at the home of a fellow Bandido member in Pierce County at almost 4 a.m., roughly 4 hours after the killings. He was not wearing pants and asked to borrow some. He washed his hands there and said he'd been in a fight with a homeless black man. He left the house in a car, which was puzzling to his brief hosts, who'd assumed he'd arrived on foot. Later that evening, Watson called 911 to say his truck had been broken into several days earlier, and a loaded Glock handgun and second loaded magazine were stolen when a thief smashed his passenger window. Watson said he'd already cleaned up the glass. Watson, an employee for Kitsap County Public Works, stopped going to work and was ultimately fired in September 2017. Meanwhile, detectives alleged that about $303,000 was deposited into his accounts that year, and that there were numerous cash deposits that the source could not be identified. Carriega reportedly had placed $200 underneath his home, but it was never found, his lawyer told detectives. A neighbor thought he heard gunshots the night of the homicide, and, while outside moving his truck, watched as Carriega's truck drove at a high rate of speed down Tenino Drive. Detectives said the man identified the driver as Danny Kelly, whose parents he knew because they'd lived at the same residence before the Carriegas moved in. Right behind the truck was a silver car nearly bumper to bumper, detectives wrote. Danny and John hated each other such that Danny would have no business being at John's house or driving his truck, detectives wrote. Meanwhile, less than a week after detectives released video of Carriega's truck and the unidentified car at the Camp Union grocery, Johnny Watson's car, a 2006 Mercedes, was found stripped and dumped in the Puyallup River, detectives said. The vehicle was missing its plates and had not been reported stolen. But later, Robert and Johnny Watson paid $1,500 to get the car back, detectives said, tracking to show where Carriega and the different suspects were located before, during and after the killings. That included Danny Kelly Jr.'s purchase of a prepaid mobile burn phone at the Silverdale Target. The phone was used to communicate almost exclusively with John Carriega for the 10 days leading up to the killings, but not after, even though it didn't expire until April 2017, detectives said. They also obtained a search warrant in January 2024 Robert Watson's cell phone, at a time when the sheriff's office had released information that members of the Bandidos in town for a funeral were suspects in the homicides. Danny Kelly, Jr., Robert Watson III, and Johnny J. Watson were arrested in connection with the quadruple murder 5 years ago of a family that owned a restaurant in Bremerton, Washington. The Kitsap County Sheriff's Office said the three faced 16 felony charges, ranging from first-degree aggravated murder, first-degree murder, first-degree arson, and first-degree burglary. They all pleaded not guilty. The charges stem from the slayings of Hunter Shop and Jonathan Higgins, both 16, and Crystal Carriega, 37, who were found inside a burned home on Jan. 27, 2017. A fourth victim, whose remains were found inside a scorched truck in Mason County, was later identified as John Carriega, 43. Detectives say the motive in this case revolves around drugs, money and personal conflicts. Johnny Carriega, according to court documents, had been selling large amounts of narcotics with likely hundreds of thousands of dollars being stashed behind his family home. But investigators never found cash at the Carriega property. Court records allege Robert Watson's bank accounts had been growing with large, unexplainable sums. They will be held without bail, per the judge's orders, and may not possess firearms, alcohol or drugs unless prescribed. They also may not have contact with each other.